look closer at the quiet revolution happening beneath the surface of global power. For decades, the world chased a dream of limitless, clean energy. A dream promised by the atom, but often choked by fear, crushing regulation, and catastrophic failure. We remember the names: 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima. They didn't just cripple an industry. They poisoned the very idea of nuclear power for an entire generation in the West. It became a relic, a bulky, 20th century technology we simply moved on from. But while the West was busy dismantling reactors and debating safety, one nation was quietly, methodically building an empire on the ashes of that dream. They didn't just embrace nuclear energy, they reinvented it. This is the story of how China didn't just catch up in the nuclear race, it decisively won the race for the next generation reactor. How did a nation, once synonymous with coal smog, become the undisputed 21st century master of atomic power? And what does this victory mean for the global balance of energy, technology, and economic supremacy? To understand the future, we must revisit the past. In the 1960s, America led the world. We were the architects of the pressurized water reactor, PWR, a colossal machine that became the global standard. But the PWR was a system built on complexity and inherent compromise. The core flaw, the problem? They required massive, interconnected piping, intense pressure, and constant active cooling, a recipe for catastrophic failure if any single system failed. The engineering demanded flawless operation, but the human element and the sheer scale of the mechanics always remained the weak point. The statistical retreat. After the 1979 3 Mile Island accident, the US canceled over 100 planned reactor orders. The economic cost and public anxiety proved too high. Quick stat. Between 1980 and 2020, the United States only completed 4 new commercial reactors, while its industrial rival, China, was just getting started. The Chinese blueprint, China saw not a risk, but a massive 21st century opportunity. They didn't want the West's aging technology, they wanted to leapfrog it. Their plan was simple: import the best existing tech, copy it, improve it, and then build a new, safer design that would be simply impossible to regulate or compete against. The Western model, the steam engine metaphor, the old Western reactor is like a giant, temperamental steam engine. It needs massive, complex plumbing to manage the pressure and a constant influx of water. If the water stops, the pressure builds. If the pressure bursts, you have a disaster. It's high maintenance and prone to explosive failure. The Chinese alternative, the battery metaphor. China's winning strategy centered on the high-temperature gas-cooled reactor, or HTGR. This is not a steam engine. It's more like a battery. It runs not on water, but on helium gas. The pebble bed. Instead of fragile metal fuel rods, the fuel is sealed inside thousands of billiard ball-sized ceramic pebbles. The heat is generated inside these tiny, invincible spheres. Because ceramic can withstand incredible temperatures, the core is inherently meltdown-proof. It is physically impossible to melt the fuel. A law of physics. This is the key. The reactor is designed with a negative temperature coefficient. As the temperature rises, the nuclear reaction automatically slows down. It is a self-regulating safety system built into the physics, not bolted on by engineers. The inherent safety. If power goes out, if the cooling system fails, or if a crisis hits, the reactor doesn't overheat and explode. It simply cools down and goes dormant. It's a system that can be left alone, which is why it is called inherently safe. The modular advantage. Unlike the billion-dollar Western behemoths, the HTGR is modular. Imagine building a skyscraper by assembling prefabricated, factory-tested units. China can mass-produce these small, safe reactors and assemble them quickly, cheaply, and anywhere, turning nuclear power into a scalable, assembly line product. The moment of truth. The world was still skeptical. The inherent safety of the HTGR was a theory, a lab experiment. The turning point came in December 2021, in the city of Shidao Bay. The dual reactor test, China's $6.7 billion demonstration project, the HTR-PM, finally went operational. It wasn't just a reactor. It was the world's first ever commercial-scale modular HTGR, a monumental validation of decades of Chinese research. The engineered crisis. To prove the technology, the Chinese engineers executed the ultimate safety test. They intentionally turned off the cooling system and shut down the steam turbine. The equivalent of inviting a meltdown in a traditional Western plant. The anticlimax. And what happened? Nothing. The core temperature rose to a high point, and then the self-regulating physics kicked in. The reaction stopped. The reactor simply cooled down safely, using only natural conduction and radiation to dissipate the heat. The meltdown was averted by the laws of physics, not by human intervention. The global revelation. This event was the quiet, undeniable proof that China had cracked the code. They had demonstrated a reactor design that was fundamentally safer, simpler, and cheaper than anything the West had. The theoretical advantage was now a concrete, commercial reality. The race is over. While the US and Europe argued over the licensing of their old complex designs, China had already moved into mass production, effectively ending the new nuclear energy race before the West had even laced its boots. Consequence 1. Energy independence. The geopolitical shift. Energy is power. China has the world's most ambitious energy goal, carbon neutrality by 2060. To achieve this, they are planning to build more nuclear reactors in the next 15 years than the rest of the world has built in the last 35. Domestic dominance. The move frees China from reliance on volatile global oil and gas markets. Instead of paying for imported fuel, they can use their own technology to power their massive industrial base, creating a powerful, self-sustaining economic fortress. Consequence 2. The export advantage. The new Silk Road. China is not just building these reactors for itself. They are now offering their superior, inherently safe HTGR technology to developing nations in Africa, Southeast Asia, and South America. Nations that desperately need cheap, reliable, and simple power infrastructure. Undercutting the competition. This export strategy is brilliant. Western nations offer expensive, old-generation systems, riddled with complex safety regulations. China offers a safer, modular, factory-assembled product that is ready to be plugged in. It's like offering a modern smartphone versus an obsolete mainframe computer. The currency of power. Every reactor sale strengthens China's global influence, creating long-term energy dependencies that far outweigh the temporary financial benefits of trade deals. They are exporting their power, one clean energy pebble at a time. Consequence 3. The race for industrial scale. The West has fallen into the trap of complexity. Licensing a new reactor in the US can take a decade and cost billions. China's government-backed approach cuts the red tape, allowing them to iterate and innovate at a pace the private sector West simply cannot match. The cost paradox. Traditional nuclear plants are so expensive and slow to build that they struggle to compete. China's modular approach, however, drastically reduces construction time and cost, making the HTGR one of the most economically competitive power sources on the planet. The environmental edge. Nuclear power, with its zero carbon emissions, is the perfect complement to intermittent solar and wind. China's ability to roll out plants quickly ensures that its path to carbon neutrality is credible, solidifying its role as the de facto leader in green energy technology. The fusion race parallel. This success is a blueprint for the next, even bigger race, nuclear fusion. While the West celebrates small, theoretical breakthroughs, China is already pouring vast centralized resources into a coordinated, industrial-scale effort to commercialize the ultimate energy source. Modern relevance. This isn't just about energy, it's about the future of global technology dominance. The nation that controls the cleanest, cheapest, and most reliable form of power controls the entire global economy. Right now, that nation is not the US, it's China. The Western dilemma. The West's core issue wasn't the technology, it was the will. Regulatory paralysis, public fear, and a focus on short-term political cycles blinded us to a long-term strategic necessity. We outsourced our manufacturing, and in doing so, we outsourced our energy future. The cost of this oversight will be paid for decades in lost technological advantage, geopolitical leverage, and economic power. The race for energy supremacy has an undisputed winner, and the gap is only widening. The core equation: when one nation can guarantee clean, limitless energy at a fraction of the cost, while others remain dependent on fossil fuels or volatile markets, the economic scales are irreversibly tipped. The silent victory. China didn't win this war with a military flash or an economic crash. They won it in the quiet, contained heart of a self-regulating nuclear reactor in a remote bay. A silent, technical victory with world-altering consequences. The legacy of fear. The West's fear of the past, Chernobyl and Fukushima, became China's greatest asset. We allowed the fear to paralyze investment and regulation, creating a vacuum that China was more than prepared to fill. The technological gap. China now holds the world's most advanced, commercially proven Generation 4 nuclear technology. This isn't a small lead, it's a generational leap that will take the West decades to overcome. The industrial strategy. This is a classic example of state-led industrial strategy. Identify a critical future technology, pour unlimited resources into it, and push the technology past the point of diminishing returns until it becomes the global standard. The New World Order. The flow of energy is the flow of power. The world is moving from an economy driven by black carbon and volatile oil to one driven by reliable, safe, clean atoms. And the supplier of those atoms is China. The cost of inaction. The West must now compete against an established, mass-produced, and inherently safer technology. Catching up will require unprecedented government investment and a complete overhaul of regulatory systems. The ticking clock. Every day the West delays, China builds another factory-made modular reactor, cementing its control over the global energy landscape. The race is over, and the winner is already setting the pace for the next. The unsettling truth, the lesson here is simple and brutal. Innovation, when married to political will and centralized scale, is an unstoppable force. The West allowed fear and market fragmentation to slow its progress to a crawl. China viewed the same challenge, not as a technology to be feared, but as a future to be claimed. The prize? Control over the fundamental source of all human progress, limitless energy. Final question. We are now faced with a world where the most powerful source of energy is controlled by a single geopolitical rival. Can the West, constrained by its democratic processes and fragmented markets, ever truly catch up to a centralized superpower in a long-term, existential technology race? Let me know in the comments.